When I close my eyes and let the memories come, they flow like water. I stole when I was 3 years old. I guess I felt like there was never enough. I had money stolen from me when I was 11 years old. Everything I worked for just disappeared. That was the same year my father died. He was 29 years old. He had a driving work ethic his whole life, trying to get money, trying to provide, trying to be enough for his family, and his heart gave out at 29 years old. I was 11, and I watched my father work himself to death. And something in that grief, somewhere in that loss, I made a decision without even knowing I made it. I will work hard. I will drive myself. I will provide. That is what love looks like. That is what being enough looks like. And so I worked. I worked hard. I worked obsessively. I had money. And then I got sick. And I lay there and I thought, I'm becoming my father. Not his laugh, not his guitar, not his voice singing rancheras on a Sunday afternoon. His sacrifice, his suffering, his driving himself until the body said no. And I asked myself, what was I missing? Not the money, not the plan, not more hours. I was missing myself, the self-love, the self-worth, the knowing that I am already enough. Today, after the healing came into my life, I understand something I wish someone had told me when I was 11 years old, standing at my father's grave. The scarcity was never about the money. It was always about me. And I am the woman who breaks this cycle for myself, for my mother, for my grandmother, for my father, who deserved to live past 29, for every Mexican-American woman who has been working herself sick, trying to prove she is worth something. You are already worth everything. Let me show you why. There is a book called The 5 Types of Wealth. It talks about time wealth, social wealth, mental wealth, physical wealth, financial wealth. And it is a beautiful book, an important book. But it is missing the most important type of wealth of all, spiritual wealth, the wealth of the self, the abundance that lives inside you in your gifts, your talents, your imagination, your creativity, your love, your flaws, your everything, the abundance that your source gave you the moment you arrived on this earth. That is the greatest wealth you will ever have. And it is the one we appreciate the least. The ancient Aztecs had a word for this, Tlatzowacamati. In the ancient Nahuatl language, the language of the Aztecs, Tlatzowacamati means I receive your precious gift, not thank you as politeness, gratitude as a spiritual act of receiving. And the gift they were receiving was life itself. That is where abundance begins, not in the bank account, in receiving the precious gift that you already are. That is where the scarcity mindset lives, not in your bank account, in your relationship with yourself. And that is where healing begins. Stay with me, because in this video I am going to show you the 5 traps the scarcity mindset sets for Mexican women specifically, the ones nobody is talking about, the ones that have been running your life without your permission since childhood. And I'm going to show you exactly how to walk out of every single one of them. I grew up in a lower middle class suburb of Houston. We had a house, but for a long time we had no furniture. I wore $5 vinyl shoes, hand-me-downs, simple, cheap, convenient food because there was what we could afford. We always had to choose. We could never have the whole package. That is what scarcity feels like when you are a child. Not dramatic, just choosing, always choosing, never having the whole thing. My mother wanted to be a housewife. She wound up working several jobs to support 4 children alone. She made wrong financial choices, not because she was careless, but because nobody taught her. She was not educated in money. My father's family understood money, but when my father died at 29, I was 11 years old. We lost that connection. The financial education never came, and the struggle passed to the next generation, to me, to my brothers and sister. I do not blame her. How can you teach what you were never taught? That is the inherited voice, not a character flaw, not a personal failing, a voice that was handed to you before you had any say in the matter. And sometimes what came with that inherited voice was criticism, not because anyone meant to wound you, but because fear looks like criticism when it has nowhere else to go. The voice that said you are not enough. The voice that said, who do you think you are? That voice that said, stay small, stay safe, do not reach too high. That is not your voice. That is the inherited voice of every generation before you that was trying to survive. And you have been living inside it without even knowing it was there. That voice shaped how you think about money. It shaped how you think about your gifts. It shaped how you think about what you deserve. It shaped how you think about yourself. But here's what I want you to hear. The inherited voice is not the truth about you. It never was. It is a survival response passed down through love, imperfect, frightened, doing the best it could with what it had. And now you get to write a new voice. You get to write a new story, your own voice. The voice that says, I am already enough. The voice that says, I receive my precious gift. The voice that says, I am the woman who breaks this cycle. That new voice begins the moment you recognize the inherited one. Harvard University researcher Senthil Mohanty spent years studying the psychology of poverty, and here's what he found. If I made you poor tomorrow, you would probably start behaving in many of the same ways we associate with poor people. Poverty, no matter who you are, creates a bandwidth tax on the mind. It narrows your thinking. It pulls your attention toward immediate survival and away from long-term possibility. This is not a personal failure. It is a cognitive adaptation to limited resources. Scarcity reshapes how decisions are made. It is a survival response. And here is the part that matters most. It is inherited before you had any say in the matter. Your subconscious mind was programmed by the environment you grew up in, by the fear in the room, by the choices that had to be made, by the inherited voice that arrived before you were born. Elaine Starling, the abundance ambassador, calls these wealth scotomas, blind spots specifically calibrated to hide financial opportunities from your perception. Installed in childhood, running silently ever since. A wealthy person and a struggling person can walk down the same street, meet the same people, hear the same conversations. One sees opportunity everywhere. The other sees nothing but confirmation of how hard life is. Same street, different inherited voice. That is not destiny. That is programming. And programming can be changed. Programming can be changed. Here are the 5 specific ways the scarcity mindset shows up for Mexican American women. See if you recognize yourself. Trap 1. Buying but never using. Have you ever bought something beautiful and then put it away for a day that never came? You buy things and save them for a future version of yourself who finally feels worthy enough to use them. The Chanel perfume sitting on the shelf, the good dishes saved for company, the workout clothes with tags still on, the products bought and put away for a day that never comes. That is not generosity. That is the inherited voice telling you that you do not deserve your own good things today. The future you is already here. Use the Chanel. Trap 2. Doing everything alone. When was the last time you asked someone for help and actually meant it? The inherited voice tells you that asking for help is weakness, that you should figure it out yourself, that you should not burden anyone, that needing help means you are not enough. And so you carry everything alone. The bills, the worry, the children, the household, the business, the grief, the fear, all of it alone. And you got so good at doing everything yourself that people stop offering to help because you never ask, because you have trained everyone around you to believe you do not need anything. But here is the truth. The most abundant people on earth know how to receive help. They build teams, they ask experts, they lean on community. They say, I need help with this, without shame and without apology. After the lightning struck, after I was healed, I stopped trying to do everything alone. I found a financial advisor, a business coach, a hypnosis certification program, a Tai Chi class, a Buddhist temple, a Jose Silva community. I asked for help in every area of my life, and that was not weakness. That was the abundance mindset in action. You are not meant to carry this alone. You never were. Trap 3. The one permitted luxury. Panza llena, corazón contento. Full belly, happy heart. For Mexican families, food is the one permitted luxury. It does not matter what neighborhood they live in, what car they drive, what clothes they wear. The table is where the abundance lives. And because food became the one place abundance was allowed, it became complicated, emotional, tied to love and comfort and family and memory in ways that went far beyond nutrition. And when the traditional food of our grandmothers was replaced by the convenient, cheap, Americanized version, we kept the emotional relationship with food, but lost the medicine that came with it. I am 58 years old. I have diabetes, and I grew up eating convenient, cheap food because healthy, nutritious, traditional Mexican food, the food that was actually our medicine cabinet, felt like a luxury we could not afford. That is the inherited voice living in the body. Trap 4. The inherited voice. What if the voice telling you that you are not enough was never yours to begin with? The inherited voice is the most powerful trap of all because it is invisible. We do not hear it as someone else's fear. You hear it as your own thoughts. You are not smart enough for that. You do not have what it takes. People like us do not do things like that. What do you think you are? Who do you think you are? That is not you. That is the voice of every person before you who was afraid, who was surviving, who was doing the best they could. The voice protected them. But it is limiting you. And recognizing it, naming it as inherited, is the first act of breaking it. The next time that voice speaks, say, that is not my voice. That is the inherited voice, and I am writing a new one. Trap 5. Work instead of livelihood. What if you were never meant to work, but to create? The inherited voice tells you to find a job, find something safe, find something that pays the bills. Do not take risks. Do not follow what inspires you. That is for other people. But Jose Revueltas, one of Mexico's greatest writers, said it simply. Todo acto de creación es un acto de amor. Every act of creation is an act of love. When you create from your gifts, you are loving the world. That is not work. That is a livelihood, one that is inspired. You were not put on this earth to work yourself to death. My father did that, and I modeled him, and I got sick, and I decided that cycle ends with me. You were put here to have a livelihood that you love, that you wake up and are inspired by, where you share your gifts, your abilities, your imagination, your creativity, your love. That is not a luxury. That is your purpose. After the healing came to me, I stopped waiting to feel ready. I invested in experts, in education, in myself. I found a Mexican-American financial advisor, a woman who understood my cultural heritage, who understood the inherited voice, who understood what it means to build financial knowledge from the ground up at 58 years old. And she gave me 3 sentences that changed everything. Educate yourself about money. You will get better with practice, and be consistent with your business. Not you missed your chance, not it's too late, not you should have started sooner. Educate, practice, be consistent. That is it. That is the whole thing. Because here's what I learned. The poverty mindset waits until conditions are perfect. The abundance mindset moves before it is ready because it trusts what it carries inside. And if you want to go deeper into the questions that unlock everything, I want to invite you to my Ask Better Questions, Create a Better Life workshop. It is a 90-minute guided NLP meditations experience using exalted questions, the exact kind of questions that help you access the abundance that is already inside you. The link is in the description below. I would love to see you there. Gabriel Bernstein said it in one sentence. True abundance isn't based on our net worth. It is based on our self-worth. That is the 6th type of wealth. The spiritual wealth. The one the book missed. Spiritual wealth. The abundance of the self. We spend so much time looking outside ourselves for abundance. We look at our bank account. We look at our house. We look at our car. We look at our clothes. We look at what other people have that we do not have. And we measure ourselves against all of it. And we come up short. Every time. Because that is what the inherited voice does. It trains your eyes to look outward, to compare, to measure, to find the gap between where you are and where you think you should be. But abundance, real abundance, does not live out there. It lives in here. It means the wealth of your mind, the incredible mind you were given, the mind that can learn anything, solve anything, imagine anything. That mind is wealth. I mean the wealth of your imagination, the ability to see something that does not yet exist and believe it into being. That imagination is wealth. I mean the wealth of your creativity, the way you make something from nothing, the way you take the broken pieces of a life and arrange them into something beautiful and whole. That creativity is wealth. I mean the wealth of your gifts, the way you listen, the way you connect, the way you see people, really see them in a way that makes them feel less alone. Those gifts are wealth. I mean the wealth of your experience, every scar, every hard season, every lesson that arrived disguised as a loss. That experience is wealth. I mean the wealth of your flaws, the imperfections that make you real, the cracks that let the light in. Those flaws are wealth. I mean the wealth of your resilience, the fact that you are still here, still trying, still searching. That resilience is wealth. I mean the wealth of your love, the love you have given, even when it was not returned. The capacity to love deeply, to feel deeply, to care deeply. That love is wealth. And I mean the wealth of your life itself, the gift of your breath, the gift of another morning, a heart that can still love. That life is wealth. The moment you truly acknowledge the abundance that lives inside you, something shifts, not because the world changes first, but because you change first. You start to see opportunities you were walking past every day. You start to attract people. You recognize your gifts because you finally recognize them yourself. You start to make decisions from abundance instead of fear. You start to ask better questions. Not why does this always happen to me, but what is this teaching me? Not why don't I have enough, but what do I already have that I can build from? Not why can't I, but what becomes possible when I decide I already am. That shift does not begin with money. It begins with acknowledgement. The moment you stop treating yourself like a project to fix and start treating yourself like a gift to unwrap, that is when abundance stops being something you chase and becomes something you are. I want to speak directly to you now. The Mexican American woman who is sitting in her scarcity, who feels like it's too late, who feels like she missed her chance. I call to you. Quisieron enterrarnos. No sabían que éramos semillas. They tried to bury us. They did not know we were seeds. That is you. That is us. The inherited voice that was passed down. The financial education that never came. The fathers who worked themselves to death, trying to be enough. The mothers who criticized because fear had nowhere else to go. They tried to bury us. But we are seeds. And seeds grow. It is never too late to be inspired by your own abundance of the self. It's never too late to silence the inherited voice and find your own. You have a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of ability, and a wealth of talent, a wealth of gifts, an incredible mind, an incredible imagination, an incredible creativity, the ability to learn, the ability to share, and the ability to love. The ability to be inspired every single day. Find something that inspires you with the gifts that you have. You are meant to share them. You are meant to have a livelihood that you love. And the wealth, the money, the life you always wanted to live, that inherited voice will go quiet. That scarcity mindset will run from you. It will run away scared, and you will beat it. You will defeat it. The moment you recognize the abundance that you already are inside. The scarcity mindset is not your fault. It was installed before you had any say in the matter. In the fear that filled the space where financial wisdom should have been. In the inherited voice that arrived before you were born. In the fathers who worked themselves into early graves, trying to provide. In the mothers who did the best they could with what they had. But here's what I know. Healing is not fixing what is broken. Healing is acknowledging the abundant person you already are. Remember, Tlatso Wakamati, I receive your precious gift. Say that to yourself right now. Tlatso Wakamati, I receive your precious gift because you are the precious gift. Your life is the precious gift. And when you receive it, truly receive it, the inherited voice begins to quiet. The mirror you live in begins to reflect something different back. The water that surrounds you, the people, the opportunities, the life, the inside creates the outside. Always. My father did not know this. He worked himself to death at 29. trying to find his worth in what he could provide. But I know now what he could not see then. His worth was never in what he provided. It was in who he was. The guitar, the rancheras, the laugh, the red sports car, the love. That was his abundance, and I carry it. And I'm going to live the life he never got to live. Not by working harder, by receiving myself, by knowing I am already enough, by sharing the gifts my source gave me, and with every Mexican-American woman who is ready to hear it. That is why I'm here. And if you are ready to start that journey, start here. My free 30-day journaling guide, Feel It to Heal It, is linked in the description below. 30 prompts, completely free, one page at a time. I am Yolanda. This is Frog's Little Tale. Healed Hearts in Action. Dicho y hecho, said and done. Write your own story. Before you go, drop it in the comments below. What is the one gift inside you that you are ready to stop hiding and start sharing? Just one. I read every single one. Now that you know the 5 traps keeping you stuck in scarcity mindset, I want you to watch this video next. It pairs perfectly with everything you just heard. Watch it right here, because when you pair what you just learned with what is in this video, it is way more powerful.